Thomas, Alexandria here, 35-year-old toddler mom, therapist, and gym rat. I had to refilm because I got it wrong. I lost nearly 40 pounds postpartum and it changed my life. So now my goal is to help other mamas and other women to be the best versions of themselves. Today, I want to talk to you about Noom because Noom was a pretty critical part of my weight loss journey. Prior to, joining Noom, I was just lifting weights and working out online with a workout program, and that was helping. And it was certainly helping me to lose weight, but not at the pace that I could have been if I also had my diet in check. And so I decided to add Noom. I decided that that was the way that I wanted to try to get things in order and get my food on track because I just felt like I didn't know a ton of information. And so I opted to purchase Noom in January of 2022. And honestly, if you are thinking about Noom, now's a great time because the new year is when they run some of their best specials. So I would jump on it now. If you think you want to give Noom a try, now's the time to do it because it's not a cheap expense and they're running some better deals now than they will be here in just a couple of months. So jump on it now. I'm not affiliated with Noom in any sort of way, and I don't even have an active subscription anymore. So I'll link the pricing info. I'll either put it on the screen or I'll link it down below for you so that you can access it and figure out, what the current pricing is. But based on my experience with Noom, they will be running some specials for the new year. So be on the lookout for that if it's something that you think that you want to do. If you're watching this later on, you don't have to wait certainly, but just if you happen to be catching this at the time this video is, live or whatever, then now's a great opportunity. So what is Noom exactly? So Noom is basically a psychologically based program to teach you how to eat. And I'm going to show you some screenshots that I have, but unfortunately, because I haven't been subscribed since 2022, I may not have like the most up-to-date like screen information. So just keep that in mind. The screen may look a little bit different now, but to my knowledge, they probably still use the same functions. So basically, they give you a calorie budget and then they give you a learning tool, and they also give you like modules basically to input all of your data. So it's like a MyFitnessPal, but like way more elevated. And the fitness tracker is for like adding in exercise or walking or anything like that. And then they also give you lessons. And these are the lessons where you learn about understanding food and all of those sort of things. And throughout they have a ton of modules, so keep that in mind. I had a year subscription and I sort of petered off at about the 6 or 7 month mark because I just felt like I had learned and gained everything that I needed. But I also have a background in psychology, so they had sort of pivoted away from some of the food stuff and into some more generalized stuff that I already knew. And so that was part of the reason why I didn't take full advantage of it, is because I'd lost the weight that I wanted to lose. And that took me about 6 months of following Noom. They also give you a calorie tracker, just like you would track your calories in the MyFitnessPal app or whatever the case may be. And then they categorize food by caloric density. So basically, how dense is the food by, it used to be green, yellow, and red. It's now green, yellow, and orange. So I'm not really sure what the pivot was, I guess, because they didn't want people to think that you shouldn't eat those foods. So it's green, yellow, and orange now. And basically, all that means is how calorically dense is the food that you're eating. Now, one of the things that Noom didn't do for me that I think would be beneficial, especially if you're not focusing just diet only and you're also incorporating exercise, is to prioritize that protein. And I don't think Noom puts enough emphasis on prioritizing protein. They focus on the water density of food and like prioritizing eating those green foods that have a lower caloric density rather than the emphasis on prioritizing protein. And if it were me, and you didn't ask, but you kind of did because you're watching this video, I would also prioritize the protein. And a lot of those proteins are going to fall in that yellow category. And so just something to keep in mind as you look in Noom. But I want to give you some of the key takeaways for me from Noom that hopefully will help you along the way. Like I said, one of the big pieces for me was learning to track my calories and really just understanding how food is digested in the body. And Noom has several, I can't even calculate for you how many because I have no way to look, but they have quite a few lessons about like understanding food and digesting food and all the different kinds of food. There's a lot of great knowledge that they provide for you, even in that green, yellow, red, orange system. And so it makes it really simple for you to see sort of the breakdown of the food intake that you have. prior to, my weight loss journey, I was eating more of those like yellow and red foods because honestly, I was doing a lot of like eating away from home. And when you eat takeout all the time, it's really hard for you to be eating a lot of those green foods because those green foods just aren't as much in takeout or they just don't taste as good, right? Why would I buy the broccoli side dish, right, when I could have a potato? And a potato is more likely going to be in the yellow category as opposed to the broccoli that's going to be in the green. Obviously, it makes sense. But when you think about, putting your foods in different categories, it really helps you to think about what am I eating and what's the impact that it's having on my digestive system. So that was really helpful for me to be able to sort of see that in a visual standpoint and also to help me get a better idea of how to balance my plate a little bit better. The other thing that Noom does, I think some people would find a little bit controversial, but as by having a psychology background, I feel like I can better understand it. And it makes sense to me because it's sort of desensitizing you. And what they have you do is they tell you to weigh yourself every single day. And the reason they tell you to weigh yourself every single day is basically to make it not a big deal. When we build ourselves up to something and we get like in this headspace about like weighing ourselves, and when we make it a huge deal, then that number becomes a bigger deal. And so they teach you to basically just step on the scale every day so that it's not a big deal. It's not a big thing. Like it's just something that goes in your tracker is how much you weigh. And it's just what it is because the scale is an important number. It's just not the only number that matters. It's a part of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle. And when I would try to lose weight in the past and would get stuck, it was often because like I wasn't seeing the scale move and I would get frustrated. I'm like, well, why am I even trying? The scale isn't moving. But the thing is that it's not just about the scale moving. When you think about like how your body composition is made up of, you can't expect if you're building muscle and losing fat, like they weigh different things. And so you can't expect that you're just suddenly gonna like drop a bunch of pounds. And if you do drop a bunch of pounds pretty quickly, it's probably because it's water weight or something like that. It's probably not strictly fat loss. So the scale is important and it's important to just sort of check in with yourself in the weighing process, but it's also important that that not be the only thing. Take pictures, take those measurements. Those are where you will really be able to see. And I think that's partly why I was so successful this time around is because I took those photos, I took those measurements so I could actually physically see the changes in my body, even though the scale wasn't always presenting that. And hey, if you are loving this kind of content and you want supportive mom friends, I want to be a supportive mom friend for you. So please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content from me. And also, please come and say hello. I would love to talk to you in the comment section and have a conversation about really anything that you'd like to have a conversation about. If you've got questions, comments, concerns, I really do want to hear from you. So please leave that in the comment section and be sure to subscribe so that we can be friends and get to know each other. Another really crucial piece for me was understanding decision fatigue and the impact of eating breakfast. And they sort of go hand in hand. I know that may seem a little bit silly. So, if you don't know what decision fatigue is, decision fatigue basically means that the more decisions we make, the less likely we are to make decisions that are like positive decisions. And we make thousands upon thousands of decisions in a day. And so the longer we are awake, the more likely we are to make choices that aren't as healthy for us, which I think is part of the reason why a lot of people have been successful with meal prep. I sort of utilize meal prep, not a ton. For me, and what worked for me or what has worked for me has just been to sort of like keep up with my calorie budget and sort of like make decisions on the front end. And when I was in the like throes of losing weight, I would plan my meals. It just wouldn't necessarily be that they were pre-made all the time. Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. But like for example, if my calorie budget's like 1500 calories, I'm just picking a number at the moment. I think that's about what I was living in is about a 1500 calorie budget. I think between 12 and 15. But if I knew that, then I would sort of like plan out like this is what I'm going to have for breakfast today. This is my plan for lunch and then this is my plan for dinner, just to do the math on it ahead of time so that by the end of the day I didn't get like behind the eight ball. And then that way I could look at my calorie budget in the evening because that's the time, especially for me. I don't know if you guys are like this, but especially for me, the evening time is tricky because that's when I'm like snacky or wanting like a little something something. But when I'm tracking and I'm looking at my budget, I can say, oh, well, you only have like 30 calories left in your budget. So if you're going to go eat something, you need to go eat something that's like 30 calories or less. There are not a lot of things with 30 calories or less, let me just tell you. There are very few things. You can have some like carrot sticks or some vegetables, maybe some fruit, depending on the kind of fruit. You see my point. So it's a good deterrent because then you can see like, oh, well, if I eat this, I don't know, slice of cake, it's going to completely blow out my calorie budget for the day. And so it would help me sort of rein in on my snacking that the decision fatigue would cause. And basically, understanding decision fatigue in and of itself was really helpful for me. Like I didn't I didn't realize that it was called something. And so just to be able to kind of like put a label on it served to be really helpful for me. So hopefully it's really helpful for you too. Another component that was really important for me is understanding the impact of sleep. Now, if you've watched other videos of mine, you already know, and I've already explained that I'm a wuss about sleep anyway. Like, I love sleep. Sleep and I are best friends. But not just that, it is really important and even sort of ties back into that decision fatigue piece that we talked about. That, when we make decisions when we're tired, we're less likely to make those positive decisions because it's impacting our mood and the stability of our mood. So while I understand as moms and, busy women, we may not always be so much in charge of our sleep. There are certain things that we can do to make ourselves better at sleep and by setting ourselves up for positive success. Listen, I know what do they call it on the internet where you are like revenge procrastination, I think is what I've heard it called. But basically, it's like where you stay up late because it's the only free time you have to yourself. Look, I get it, and I can be guilty of that too. But it's really important to understand that the sleep component is such a crucial piece. And so it is important, not necessarily that we always get 100% of our sleep need, but that we make it an important factor and we don't just disregard it. Because by not getting adequate sleep, you're impacting your cortisol levels. So that can also impact your ability to lose weight. So another little nugget from Noom that I've hopefully been sharing, but have also I share here, but I've also shared in other videos as well, is understanding that your body is going to change. And as you lose weight, it's actually going to become more difficult to continue to lose weight. And what I mean by that is basically, if you're carrying more weight, as you get smaller, as your body composition changes, it becomes more difficult for you to lose weight because your body sees what you're doing and sees the changes that you're making. And it's like, aha, I see what you're doing. Which is also why, if you're like an intermittent fasting person, intermittent fasting can work for a while. And in fact, one of the times prior to this that I was trying to lose weight, I was utilizing intermittent fasting and it did work. It worked for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months maybe. And then my body was like, hey, I see what this girl's doing. I see what she's up to. I don't think so. And it stopped working. And I was like, oh crap, what am I gonna do now? I was really glad to get breakfast back though, because I don't know why, but I really like breakfast. Are you guys breakfast people? Or are you not breakfast people? I feel like you're either in one of two camps. You either really like breakfast or you just don't care at all about breakfast. My son, not a breakfast eater. He'll eat breakfast because I make him sit at the table to like eat breakfast, but some people are just breakfast people and some people are not. I am personally breakfast people. I like breakfast food. I like breakfast time. And so intermittent fasting took that from me. And so I was very happy to have my breakfast back. Is that weird? I can't be the only one. I can't. My husband's not like a super breakfast guy. He's sort of become a breakfast guy again, also sort of for the same reason. Like if we circle back to decision fatigue, when you are starting your day by making those positive decisions, those set the tone for the day. And so by eating a healthy breakfast and getting yourself off on the right foot, it's easier to continue to make those positive decisions. Whereas if you wake up late or you're like super in a hurry and you don't have any sort of plan for breakfast, it's easier to be like, oh, well, I'll just grab a donut on the way into the office. And then all of a sudden, what we doing with our calorie budget, right? And lastly, one of the big things that Noom taught me is an understanding of balance. And I really hope, if you get nothing else from any of my other videos, is that you take that from this video or any other videos that you choose to watch. Is it's really important to find the balance. Cutting yourself off from food and things that you love is not going to make you more successful. It's just going to make you more miserable. You have to find a way to incorporate the things that you like into living a healthy lifestyle, and this doesn't have to make you miserable. If you like carbs, eat carbs. If you like pasta, you should eat pasta. Not everybody likes pasta. I'm confused about you, but you may not like pasta. If you don't like pasta, you're not obligated to eat pasta. But also, don't cut out pasta because you think that's the solution, because it's not the solution. It's a diet. And anytime you restrict or you cut things out that you love, you're less likely to stick to whatever you've got going on. So find the balance in the things that you're eating. Eat from, as Noom would say, eat from each category. Just do it in smaller quantities, right? You want to I don't remember what Noom's numbers are. I'll see if I can find it. And if I can, I'll put it on the screen for you. But, I want to say that Noom says to make 30, maybe it's 15, like 15 to 20% of your diet come from the red. That seems like a high number. I'm not sure. I'm really sorry. I don't want to speak out of turn. But the point is that in Noom, they give you a specific like percentage that they think you should stick to. And so, practicing living in that percentage can be helpful, but also knowing that, hey, I went a little over this percentage today doesn't mean that you can't do something differently tomorrow. So you also have access to a coach. I should have mentioned that on the front end when I was explaining what Noom is, but if you want access to a coach that will like message with you and talk to you and DM you, then that's an option as well. And that was a really cool option I used. I did have actually ended up with two because I had a coach, but then she left. I think she must have moved to a different job. And so I got a new coach, but they were both really nice and super helpful and always answered my questions if I had them. And so I think that helped, with the experience of well, if I had a question about something or just to sort of keep me accountable because they could see what I was putting into my tracker and might say something like, hey, just checking in. I noticed that you logged X, Y, and Z today, or you didn't log in your calories today. Like, is everything okay? How can I support you? That sort of thing. And so I think that's a really cool component with that too, is that accountability partner from a coach should you choose to have that. And it may not be anymore, but when I was in Noom, that was part of the subscription. Like you could choose it, but you could also choose that you didn't want it. So if I were you, I would get the coach. If it's still like an included option, I would recommend it to you. But overall, I had a super positive experience with Noom and I would certainly recommend it. Again, not sponsored. I would certainly recommend it to you if you're on the fence about it. Now's the time to give it a try. The only thing I would say is that if you're not super tech savvy, and that may not be you because you're sitting here watching this video and you're utilizing YouTube, but if you're not super tech savvy, you may have a little bit of trouble with some of the logging and some of the coaching and stuff like that. So you would probably want more support. So if that's you and you're not really like tech friendly, this may not be the option for you. Some sort of like in-person coach might be a better fit for you. But if you are good with technology and you like the tech, then I think you'll be just fine. I don't find it particularly complicated to log things or to keep up with the lessons or anything like that. But my mom utilized it for a little while and she didn't have much success with it. And I think that was in part because she had trouble figuring out how to utilize the app. So I think she would have been more successful if she knew better how to use the app. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So I really hope that this video has been helpful and informative for you. And if it was, I would love if you would subscribe. And YouTube should be recommending something else to you that they think that you will love. And I hope you love it too. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.